Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at some really quite stunning sources you sent us. They detail this journey of a scientific insider.
Yeah, someone who ended up as vice president of the EcoHealth Alliance, EHA, which, is now pretty infamous.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about like a nonprofit getting complicated. This really goes deep into how science, high-level science, gets tangled up with national security.
Totally. We're talking about someone with a serious background, PhD, military experience, worked at Sandia National Labs, even had intelligence world connections.
Right. And crucially, expertise in modeling disease spread.
But he thought he was joining, what did the source say, a crunchy outfit.
Yeah, like the World Wildlife Fund or something.
Yeah.
Focused on conservation, tracking animal diseases. Something simple, or so he thought.
Away from all the military-industrial stuff he knew?
So our mission here is to pull out those key moments, those specific documents or conversations that just blew that cover story apart.
And trace how EHA was really operating, its ties to the U.S. government, the intelligence community, and what this all means for, well, pandemics and future threats.
Okay, so let's start where things often get revealing. The money. When he joined EHA as a senior scientist, things weren't looking good financially.
No, not at all. The sources say they were on the rocks, basically struggling.
And he changed that pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. He used his network and brought in a huge check, like $4.6 million.
From where?
The Defense Threat Reduction Agency,
Okay.
DTRA.
Okay, hang on. DTRA, that's part of the Department of Defense, right?
Right.
Focused on weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly. Not your typical donor for a, quote, conservation group.
So that money.
It saved them, transformed the organization, the sources say, and that's what got him promoted to vice president.
So right away, the funding source points away from conservation and towards, well, defense contracting.
Right. He realized they weren't really about conservation. They were what he called a beltway bandit.
Could you just quickly explain that term?
Sure. It's basically DC jargon for a contractor or maybe a nonprofit whose main goal isn't the mission they advertise, but just winning big government grants.
Chasing the money.
Chasing the money, exactly.
So if the real mission wasn't conservation, what was their big public project? What were they selling?
That was this big program called PREDICT, funded by USI.
Okay. And the idea behind PREDICT was?
The claim was global disease surveillance, collecting samples worldwide to try and forecast the next pandemic, predict it before it happens.
And forecasting, modeling disease spread. That was his specialty, right? He'd modeled Zika successfully before.
Precisely. So he was the perfect person to evaluate it. He dug into their data, their methods.
And his assessment.
He called it a giant boondoggle.
Yeah.
Said it was like mathematically impossible to predict anything meaningful with the way they were collecting samples.
Why? Not enough data.
Yeah, not enough samples and not collected systematically. You couldn't build a reliable predictive model that way.
Okay, so the forecasting claim was shaky at best. What about the conservation mission? Did that hold up?
Well, there was this one moment in an executive meeting. He apparently just asked Peter Daszak, the CEO, point blank,
Yeah.
how much are we actually spending on wildlife conservation? Awkward silence. Then Daszak, apparently with the source described it as almost a maniacal tone, just admitted, we're not doing any conservation work.
Wow, okay. So no real forecasting, no conservation.
Right. So what were they doing? He realized the main activity was just running around the globe collecting infectious disease samples.
To build what?
A library, a bank, a
Yeah.
massive collection of viruses.
A viral bank.
Yeah.
Which naturally leads to the next question.
Yeah.
Why build that bank? What was the real science going on?
Well, by looking at their projects, who they were working with, it became, in his words, apparently obvious
Obvious
that EHA was deep into gain-of-function research.
Go Huff. Modifying viruses to make them, say, more infectious, more dangerous.
Exactly. The goal was viral discovery to make new, novel pathogens, finding new viruses and then enhancing them.
And this wasn't happening in isolation. Who are they collaborating with?
Dr. Ralph Barrick's lab at the University of North Carolina, a top lab for this kind of work.
And EHA was telling funders, like the U.S. government, that this GoChef research was necessary for
Wow.
modeling, prediction.
Yeah, that was the justification, that they needed to make these enhanced viruses to model them, simulate pandemics, predict how they might evolve.
But the insider, the modeling expert, he didn't buy that justification.
Not at all. He called it scientific fraud.
Strong words. Why fraud?
He argued that predicting exactly how a virus will evolve in the real world is basically impossible. You'd have to be like omniscient, to be like God, was his phrase.
So they were selling the government on the idea of prediction.
While actually just doing the advanced biological manipulation, it was cover, funding risky research under the guise of pandemic preparedness.
And this line of research led them directly to Wuhan.
Yes. The partnership with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the WIV, that started back around 2010, 2011.
What was the WIV known as in, say, defense and intelligence circles back then?
The sources are really clear on this. It was widely understood to be the Chinese military's bioweapons laboratory.
Okay, let's pause there. The U.S. government, through EHA, is funding gain-of-function research, collaborating with UNC.
And then transferring that technology, that knowledge, to a lab known to be linked to the Chinese military's bioweapons program.
But the actual grant money transferred directly to Wuhan wasn't huge, right?
Yeah.
Something like $400,000.
Relatively small, which raises the question, why take such a huge risk for that amount? China didn't need $400K.
So the exchange wasn't really about the money.
No, it was technical.
Yeah.
And it was about intelligence. The U.S. was giving them advanced biotech, specifically the gain-of-function techniques from Barrick's lab.
Cutting-edge stuff.
Absolutely. In exchange for what?
Access.
Access. So the U.S. could get inside, gather intelligence on what the Chinese were doing in their main biodefense lab.
So essentially trading advanced, potentially dangerous technology for intel access to an adversary's lab.
That's what the insider concluded. And this brings Peter Daszak right back to the center.
How so?
There was a conversation, apparently late 2015. Daszak mentions offhand that somebody from the CIA had approached him.
And the insider, with his security background.
Immediately flags that. He concluded Daszak was likely being used, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly at first, but used as a CIA asset.
The civilian frontman.
The civilian conduit to maintain that crucial access to the WIV for U.S. intelligence.
So EHA wasn't just a beltway bandit or a go-with research hub. It was potentially an intelligence pass-through.
That's the implication, and it puts a whole different spin on everything that happened when COVID-19 emerged.
Right. So fast forward to early 2020. COVID hits. And who gets put on the WHO committee sent to China to investigate the origin?
Peter Daszak, his former boss.
Which, to the insider, looked like what?
He described it as a classic psychological operation, a psyop. You put the guy potentially linked to the origin, in charge of investigating the origin. It gives the appearance of a serious independent investigation.
While the real goal is...
control the narrative. Distract. Ensure the investigation doesn't lead back to EHA, doesn't lead back to the U.S. funding or the EcoHealth work, and definitely doesn't lead back to Daszak himself.
And leverage his image as this, harmless NGO conservation guy.
To push the natural origin story. The wet market narrative.
Yeah.
Anything but the lab.
Seeing this unfold must have been the breaking point for the insider.
It seems so. That's when he started filing whistleblower complaints. Sent them everywhere. DOD, Homeland Security, USDA, even the CIA.
And what was the response when he started speaking out more publicly, questioning this story?
Well, it wasn't good. The response was pretty severe, coordinated harassment.
And we're not just talking losing job opportunities. This got personal and physical, even though he was living way out in a rural area.
Yeah, the source details are disturbing. Being followed by vehicles, ones registered to the Michigan Secretary of State, the kind used for undercover police work.
His computers, devices...
hacked constantly. Weekly, he described it as a cat-and-mouse game, having to wipe his systems all the time.
And then the physical intrusions began.
Yeah, home break-ins. And get this, they left fingerprints behind.
Deliberately.
Who knows? But when his old counterintelligence contacts from Sandia got the FBI involved, the FBI refused to run the prints.
Refused. That suggests protection from somewhere high up.
It certainly looks that way. And then it got even uglier.
The attack on his dog.
Yes, his dog was tased. And his car was tampered with the controls, apparently taken over remotely at low speed in his own driveway.
Just incredibly menacing acts designed to intimidate.
And discredit. The local FBI and state police were apparently spreading rumors that he was dangerous, isolating him.
It's a terrifying picture of what can happen when you challenge powerful interests at the intersection of science and intelligence.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, Peter Daszak, he eventually had to admit in a congressional hearing that he was working with the intelligence community. It's on the record now.
But consequences, accountability.
Zero. Nothing's happened to him, which just highlights the lack of accountability in this whole system.
It seems like protecting the system itself, the intelligence connections, the funding streams, became more important than anything else.
That's certainly how it appears. Protecting the institutions trumped finding the truth or ensuring public safety.
Okay, so that covers the past, the origins, the cover-up. But the insider warns this isn't over. Gain-of-function research didn't just stop.
No, it just evolved. It's now seen as like a necessary first step.
For what?
Synthetic biology, the sources are blunt. Man has created life. We're talking fully synthetic, self-replicating cells made using nanotechnology.
Okay. Self-replicating synthetic life. That's a huge leap. That's beyond modifying existing viruses.
It really is. And the next step, according to the insider, is fusing this synthetic biology with artificial intelligence, AI.
When does he see that happening?
He estimates it's close, maybe a 4 to 5 year horizon.
And what does AI add to a synthetic organism? Why is that combination so much more dangerous?
It gives them swarm-like capabilities. Imagine AI controlling these synthetic cells. They can adapt, evolve, overcome defenses autonomously without human direction.
So if a synthetic pathogen encounters your immune system, or a drug,
the AI controlling it could potentially detect that resistance and immediately re-engineer the synthetic cells on the fly to bypass it. It's adaptive, intelligent life.
that's deeply unnerving. And the targets aren't just humans anymore, right?
No, that's a key point. This tech could be weaponized against, well, almost anything. Imagine synthetic organisms designed to produce acid to eat metal on tanks or ships.
Or create biofilms to disable submarine hulls, or even satellite components in orbit.
Exactly. It completely changes warfare, infrastructure security, everything.
And the threat to humans also becomes potentially much more specific.
Frighteningly so. With advanced AI and genetic databases, you could theoretically design synthetic agents to target specific genetic populations.
Based on race, or even a specific family line.
That's the potential. Using DNA markers, tailoring a pathogen, AI could even model how it might spread through related individuals.
This sounds almost unstoppable. If the research is moving this fast and is potentially globally accessible, what can actually be done? Can we regulate it?
The insider argues trying to stop the research itself is probably futile. The knowledge is out there.
So what's the alternative?
His proposed solution is accelerating better biosurveillance.
Meaning?
We need a massive international push to develop technologies specifically designed to detect synthetic life, early warning systems.
Systems that can spot these novel, engineered, self-replicating things as soon as they emerge before they spread widely.
Exactly. We need to be actively looking for a completely new kind of biological threat.
This is sobering stuff.
Right.
It really reframes the whole COVID origin debate, doesn't it? What you need to understand is that those arguments, while important, might already be overshadowed.
Yeah, the focus shifts. We saw how Go5 research, tangled with intelligence motives, seemingly led to a pandemic and a massive cover-up. That's bad enough.
But the realization that the next wave might involve AI-controlled, self-replicating synthetic life, that's an entirely different scale of challenge.
Yeah.
Potentially existential.
It dwarfs what we dealt with in 2020.
So let's end with this thought about accountability for the past, which might inform the future. The insider suggested something specific for investigating the COVID origin.
Yeah, given that people involved, like at EHA, were working on Department of Defense-funded programs.
He proposed that the real investigation, maybe even criminal trials, should happen under military law, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ.
And crucially, conducted in a classified setting.
Why classified?
His argument is that releasing all the verified details right now, given the current global tensions, could be massively destabilizing, geopolitically dangerous.
So use the UCMJ's ability to hold classified proceedings, establish guilt, impose penalties.
But keep the full details under wraps publicly for maybe 5 or 10 years.
Until things are less volatile.
It's a stark proposal. Justice delayed, perhaps, in the name of preventing immediate global conflict over the pandemic's true origin.
A difficult trade-off. Immediate transparency versus potential global stability.
Definitely something to mull over. What price accountability and when? That's all for this deep dive.